So, welcome to Three Techies Banter. Today, we're debugging the biggest lie in the global economy. It's called free trade. In tech, free means that you're the product. Okay, that's it. And I think in trade, it's no different. So, free isn't a $0 price tag. It's really, how should I put it? A high stakes API handshake.
Wow. Nice.
Nice.
Now it sounds like Three Techies Banter.
In fact, the funny thing is that way back in 77 AD, there was actually a Roman nobleman named Pliny who had lodged a formal complaint in the Roman Senate saying that about 100 million, I think the currency of that time used to be called sesterces or something, whatever, that was the denomination. That was the amount of money they were sending to India because they were buying goods from India. So, and that was the first recorded instance of a trade deficit. So I think with India, what's happening is that I think with everything else, we've kind of, which is the legacy of our Aadhaar, UPI, ONDC days, that we have kind of subscribed to the view of that we will have open networks, which means we will have a system on protocols which generally should allow people to go in and out without putting unnecessary barriers. And I think we are kind of carrying that philosophy forward in trade agreements in which we are kind of trading with everyone.
So what I'm saying is the decade will, and it's not decades, but definitely a decade or more will be required for the new world order to come into play. Because 75% trade will not go down to 10 or 20% very soon.
No.
It will be so many. The amount of new deals or bipartisan relationship that Mike Carney is forging is in that 25% space, and that to grow is going to take a lot of time, backed up with this whole currency, supply chain, payments, rails being developed.
So, one of the things that I feel, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but one of the things I feel that's going to happen is we're never going to have those long-term deals anymore.
No, you're right.
Everybody is going to now build in those 3 or 5 year exit clauses.
Yeah, that 11-month rent release.
Correct. It's your rent agreement. Well, I won't take it as an 11-month, but I think what people will sign is a 3 to 5 year agreement and say, okay, let's review and renew. So no longer is it that I'm going to get tied down to you. So I think the lessons one is learning from that over-dependency is that I want an exit clause.
Absolutely.
To that
You're
over-dependency. Right. So that's likely to happen much faster. So those forever deals, as we call it, I'm married to you, won't happen.
We are not going to have an EU deal that we will keep talking for 18 years and then sign. It's like, sign now or, move on or,
Correct.
And forget it, we are only signing for a year, right? What's the big deal? We'll reconsider next time. Because normally the thing was that, we're going to be locked in for life. So let's keep discussing and all that.
So I think the marriages have broken, the live-ins are happening.
To a certain extent, even in the trade terms. But yeah, nuclear warheads, this is like highly alarming.
I'm sure
at least
something will prevail, some sense will prevail. But the fact is that, people have consciously let it lapse. And now, everybody's like, okay, now I just feel that people feel, okay, let me stockpile some more and then I will come to an agreement and stop the other guy.
Okay, now I think my expression said it all. Can't imagine what the world is going to be with the kind. I think we need more women ruling the world. That's all I can say. This kind of madness fully will not exist if we have women ruling the world.
So, in fact, there is a word for this where men want, women to take charge and do things. It's called weaponized incompetence. That, you say that you can't do anything so that somebody else does the job.
to the band, but sweet techies on the mic. Debugging the economy, what's the lie you like? They call it free trade, but here's the techie view. If the product is free, then the product is you.
So welcome to Three Techies Banter. Today we're debugging the biggest lie in the global economy. It's called free trade. In tech, free means that you're the product. Okay, that's it. And I think in trade, it's no different. So free isn't a $0 price tag. It's really, how should I put it? A high stakes API handshake.
Wow. Nice.
Nice.
Now it sounds like Three Techies Banter.
So when I was thinking about it, I'm like, what is trade if I put it in tech terms? And it took a lot of research, guys. Sorry, apologies for that. So if you think about it, the real currency is data, your source code, and your sovereignty.
Woof.
Exactly the same things, right? You guys have taught me well. So we're going to talk about this free trade, which is not really free. And it's quite funny because it's all about, I think, hard-coded geopolitics. And we're diving into this one because otherwise you'll wonder why a tech guy is talking about trade. It's because if you don't read the terms and conditions, you're just a packet being routed. Okay, I've said every bit of tech that I know.
Totally. I think I'll also say my bit and just leave it because after that, Samiran will take over completely. I think you are done. I'll be done.
And the reason why both Nilesh and I are talking about letting Samiran take over is because Samiran wrote a 4,000 word. Should I call it an article or thesis?
It's called a novella these days.
Novella, seriously.
4,000 word novella on free trade. Okay. So Nilesh, say what you have to say and let's hand over.
Yeah. Totally. So I think since you mentioned, right, the whole idea, I mean, you decoded and made it actually codified by tech. So say, since Sheetal, you mentioned geopolitics, so let me put some of my thoughts on geopolitics. And it is the whole trade aspect has been in news for last year or so. But the fact is that the ideologies, right? So when we talk of Indian politics, you have two core ideologies, which is like, BJP and Congress kind of ideology. Similarly, US has also two ideologies, which is Republican and Democrat. And the Republican ideology around bipartisan negotiations has always been tariffs. And when you look at Democrats, the bipartisan relations are defined by sanctions, right, or the lack thereof.
Correct.
Right. So essentially, it's quite normal if a Democrat regime is in the place, if you had to control a particular relationship with a country, you would put sanctions, and in case of Republicans, you would put tariffs. Right.
Correct.
So that was my a bit on why tariffs are in news currently. But the fact is, I think, interestingly, Samiran mentioned, and I'll let him, as we decided, take the bulk of this podcast, carry it on his shoulders. I think there is a lot of history behind it, and it was quite interesting. So I'll let Samiran take that over, and then we'll jump in.
Sure.
Yeah,
Samiran,
don't hesitate to jump because they run out of something to say. So I think the trade and trade agreements was never as fashionable as it is now because of the fact that India has been of late signing several such agreements. The EU was the big one, but we did New Zealand before, then we did GCC. And there is the one that we have done with the US, which I think is still more of a framework, but not an agreement. But because of that, everybody thinks, oh, wow, there's so much trade, so much agreements and all. But, trade agreements, it's like MOUs, it's just a general understanding. It's not like you've really done $2 billion of trade or $27 billion of trade. So when I started as has been joked about, writing this article. So I was feeling very constrained by that 900 word restriction on newspapers. I said, no, it needs more space to breathe, So, but historically, the important thing is trade and trade agreements is not a new or a modern invention. It's been there for centuries and for time immemorial. In fact, the funny thing is that way back in 77 AD, there was actually a Roman nobleman named Pliny who had lodged a formal complaint in the Roman Senate saying that about 100 million, I think the currency of that time used to be called sesterces or something, whatever, that was the denomination. That was the amount of money they were sending to India because they were buying goods from India. So, and that was the first recorded instance of a trade deficit, which means they gave us that much money and they got it in return. So he actually had lodged a formal complaint. It was debated in the Senate, blah, blah, what have you. And the transshipment port used to be Egypt, and 120 ships used to come and go from India every year. I mean, that was the quantum of trade. And of course, in the interest of showering more trivia, which has no meaning, I will tell you. So a single ship could carry as much as 4 million, the unit of currency worth of goods. It could be ivory or not. Just to put it in context, a Roman soldiers, who was one of the highest paid people in the Roman Empire, his annual salary was 800 sesterces. Okay. And this is so you can see trade versus the salary, it's just like, that's what it was. The other very, very interesting thing that I discovered was that there was a document which was found in Egypt and then later resurfaced in Vienna. It is called the Museris Papyrus. I think it's mentioned in William Dalrymple's book also. So in modern terms, if you think of it, it is actually a shipping manifest. So it has details of, the goods, the duties, the insurance, who will, pay for what happens if there is loss and all of. So it was a very, very complex document. And that kind of tells you that, as Nilesh and Sheetal mentioned, that codified agreements were not alien in the ancient times. So what we are seeing today, and we are talking about, that you will give me so much, I'll give you this, agriculture, blah, blah, fisheries, defense, technology, and all that. So this is not alien at all. And this was something that the Roman Empire did with India. And if you read William Dalrymple's book, Golden Road, he actually says how the Golden Road was actually the primary trade route as opposed to the Silk Road, which is a modern invention. And to kind of sum this all up, this is also, which is like something that we always reference, which is the Kautilya's Arthashastra. That he says that other than war and all of that, trade is actually an instrument of governance and diplomacy and all of that. That, having trade relations kind of strengthens a king and an empire, because if you are trading with someone, chances are you will not fight with them because, there is mutual interest. So, I mean, just kind of put in very simple terms. So that was what kind of got me thinking about, and that's the reason I kind of wrote the article about trade and trade agreements. And then there are lots of nuances in this in terms of, how payments work in the real world, how technology plays a part. Because, of course, one of the items of trade is also technology, because you are buying and selling technology. But I think the other things that in the modern world which has changed is that, technology is also the vehicle through which agreements happen. And then technology is also the way it is monitored. So things like, I mean, Nilesh will kind of probably understand and explain this better. I mean, through all kinds of advanced GPS, IoT, and blockchain and all that, you can actually now ensure that as soon as a ship docks into a port, a trigger is sent and, the bill of lading is ticked and then payments are clear. So it's kind of down to nanoseconds as opposed to, terms of agreement. So there is a role that technology also plays in this now. So while the trade agreements have not really changed in terms of their, understanding between countries, but what has changed is how it is administered. And to the point that Sheetal, you mentioned, there is the governance has got blurred, because now the issue is that the data is being generated in India, but it is housed in the US. It's being used somewhere else. So how does data is also a commodity or an offshoot of these agreements, and what happens to that? Because earlier it was localized. So I think that is the general context of what is happening in this space, and we'll kind of talk more about what it means for India and what we can do with it.
Yeah, and that's going to be fascinating. No, go ahead, Nilesh, all yours.
No, I think just a thought came to my mind when you mentioned about this whole the supply chain and the how when a ship docks and this information is transmitted in nanoseconds, and it is good, right? The payments happen and the whole contract is honored and completed and concluded. But actually, what came to my mind was that very recently, I mean, I'm sure everyone has read it. Couple of days back, Supreme Court of the US, SCOTUS, has now kind of said that these we can't levy these tariffs, right? But because of all these systems, all the payments have been made. So now we are talking of hundreds of billions in terms of money to be returned back. So it has become an absolute opaque nightmare whereby you don't know what you paid for, why it was paid, and it has just gone into a complete tailspin.
Yeah,
and countries will have to kind of claim it back.
And there is going to be, and you're right, there's so much fight which is happening on where the data is going to be. So where does your algorithmic sovereignty stay? And that's why people like us are, especially India, for example, is it's really a battle between IP protection versus national accountability, right? That's what's happening in the world. And it's quite fascinating because while we have a large role to play, there are so many other things that we have to take into account. So I think, Samiran, you want to talk a little bit about the India perspective?
So I think with India, what's happening is that I think with everything else, we've kind of, which is the legacy of our Aadhaar, UPI, ONDC days, that we have kind of subscribed to the view of that we will have open networks, which means we will have a system on protocols which generally should allow people to go in and out without putting unnecessary barriers. And I think we are kind of carrying that philosophy forward in trade agreements in which we are kind of trading with everyone. We are not saying that we are a Western focused power or Eastern, or we will not trade with China, because I think China is also one of our largest trading partners. So is the case with ASEAN, and so is the case with UAE. So I think geopolitics does play a part, but it's also the fact that we want to have sovereign choice so that you not have this issue of lock-in, which I think some countries do face if you are very skewed towards a certain bloc or country. Like I think with the certain uncertainty looming with the US of tariffs going up and down, it is obviously very difficult to keep managing. Just think of it as a simplest price list, right? What do you price a product? When the tariff goes up, you do something, then it goes down. We have the same situation with packaging, right? You change the packaging, then you have to kind of do all kinds of this. So I think India has taken that route that we will trade with everyone. I think what we are also doing with that is that we are also enabling other underlying infrastructure, which is things like payments, how do you make it easy to do business and not remain wholly dependent on SWIFT as a mechanism, which has its own challenges, and it has a certain degree of opacity, and there is always a leg that goes through New York as a correspondent bank. So there is you are dependent on the American system for certain things, which we have discovered it can become a little bit of a destabilizing factor. So I think with the promotion of UPI, with the government-to-government contracts with the UAE, with Singapore, with France, and all of that, I think we are also trying to ease those rails so that you have trade, but you have also the ability to pay and do stuff with that. And I think there is an evolving scenario in the world where I won't call it the death of the dollar, but it is more like the dominance of the dollar in the last 6 to 9 months. We've seen kind of a shift kind of coming down because, again, all countries, and this is not restricted to India, are de-risking because nobody wants to be locked into treasury bonds. Nobody wants to be locked into one thing where one country has the ability to influence domestic and international policy. So I think there are some nuances of geopolitics, trade, finance, and all of that kind of needs to play with trade. I mean, it's 4,000 words, right? I mean, I have a lot to say.
Is it? But okay. No, I think this whole, call it like Canadian Prime Minister aptly called it a rupture, right?
Mhm.
Because of this rupture, new relationships are being forged, and
Correct.
new kind of systems are coming in place. New kind of currencies, or what will the trade use is coming to play. But I just wonder sometimes, the whole World Trade Organization based rules and all are suddenly, or those relationships do not matter anymore. There are new relationship. It'll take some time for all this to settle down, and you can see that, it was so strange that in the last quarter of 2025, US the data of the US inflation came out, and actually inflation was down. And the economists were trying to, there was a very clear reason. So there is this short, mid, and long term, right? In short term, what has happened is, because of this haziness around tariffs, a lot of stocking of good happens, right? So people overbought, right? So
Correct.
if they overbought, suddenly the inflation went down because the prices remained stable. Right? That was one of, so
Correct.
a total strange thing. When everyone said that inflation will go up, it actually went down in the last quarter. Second thing that might happen is the whole currency aspect, right? So Indian rupee has devalued in last, it has been, and it's not alarming. And most of the Indian economists say that even a number of 100 rupees per dollar is good, actually, right? Now think of it, that the Indian exports that were happening to the US, if rupee goes down, the price remains same or may go down. So it's even after tariffs. So it's all counterintuitive, and so many things will have to settle down before you actually come to see the real impact of what has happened. It won't happen in a couple of years. It will happen in mid and long term. And in long term, I think I agree with what Mike Carney said, that there is a rupture and there will be a new, complete new world order coming into place. But you are talking of decades for that happen. It is not really going to happen very soon. And none of these actually, even relationship, will come to fruition in a very short time, because of all these behavioral stuff at a trader level, at a shopkeeper level, dollar becoming strong or weak. So that was very interesting to me, actually, honestly.
I don't know if it's going to be decades, really, Nilesh, because I do feel that in the next couple of months, we will start seeing small shifts coming in. And I don't know where it's headed, but I do believe that it's not a very long-term impact that we're going to start seeing. Because you're right, while things which are completely counterintuitive have happened, there's a lot of other things also which are happening because of these trade deals, right? So even the way trade deals are getting structured is changing. So it's no longer about just goods and services. It's about a whole bunch of other things. So it's about where your carbon footprints are, what your tech alignment is, all of that. So there's so many smaller things which will start impacting this. And that, I think, may happen now. And maybe later you'll see the impact.
So you're right. When I mentioned decades, I was talking of, I'll tell you why. So think of Canada itself, right? And I think Canada's biggest trade partner is obviously US. Right? and it is like I think 75% or something of the
Yes.
trade
Correct.
is with US. It's
Yes.
huge. So what I'm saying is the decade will, and it's not decades, but definitely a decade or more will be required for the new world order to
Yes.
come into play, because 75% trade will not go down to 10 or 20%
15%.
very
No,
soon.
no.
It will be so many. So the amount of new deals or bipartisan relationship that Mike Carney is forging is in that 25% space, and that to grow is going to take a lot of time, backed up with this whole currency, supply chain, payments, rails being developed. So that is where I said, but yeah, you're right. I mean, the other stuff we'll start witnessing that, right, after this behavioral thing settles down.
So I'll tell you what, the thing is that, if this was Mike Carney trying to make that shift, it'd be one thing. But I think, like you saw in the case of these Nvidia chips, when they stopped the Nvidia from selling to China, and they were only allowed to sell lower end chips. And China went and, instead of doing kind of thinking of innovation on the hardware side, they kind of said, okay, we'll build better software to leverage the same lower chip, and that led to DeepSeek and what have you. So I just feel that, we've had disruptions in the past, but this time the disruption is so disruptive that it's forcing everybody across the world to rethink, which I feel will have a cascading effect. So it's not affecting, because it's not affecting one person. And that's why seeing very strange and unusual relationships being at least forged. Like, the Canadians are talking directly to the Chinese, the British are talking to the Chinese. I mean, so everything is up for grabs. So while, we'll not see a sudden shift and trade will move in one direction or the other, but the fact that everybody is being forced to look at optionality. Like, I want options. Because everybody, otherwise you looked at the US and said, okay, that's our biggest market, that's our biggest partner, they are paying, we'll send it there. Everybody's big beachhead was, I am going to the US, my market. But now everybody wants to sell to each other, which will cause some sort of a churn. And so maybe there'll be some realignment of trade blocks and all of that. So we are seeing that even in the currency markets. Like, I think, 80-90% of global reserves were in the dollar. Now it's kind of down to whatever, in the high 50s or 60. So it's not going to come to zero. But I think the trend is also indicative of, where we are going. People are selling treasury bonds, central banks are buying gold. And so everybody is moving to trade and currencies and things where you are allowed to maintain sovereignty. You want to have control. So in fact, I think this is true that, so even Indian gold that was lying in the Bank of India, India has shipped it to India. So not only do you, it's like, I own, this is my gold, but I've kept it, you, Nilesh. But not only that, I want the gold with me, in my own locker. So, we are going to that extent. So I think that is also a different mindset, because the gradual shift is kind of now being precipitated by, and I think it's a question of breaking the ranks. Once one guy breaks rank, now everybody is talking to everyone. They say, "Arey, Canada kar raha hai, I'll also do it. Oh, India is getting away with it. Why can't I do it?" So I think everyone's now realizing that, and Europe is also realizing that, boss, we are going to be left on our own. So now we better kind of, we can't look west, let's start looking east and south.
So, one of the things that I feel, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but one of the things I feel that's going to happen is we're never going to have those long-term deals anymore.
No, you're right.
Everybody is going to now build in those 3 or 5 year exit clauses.
Yeah, that 11-month rent release.
Correct. It's your rent agreement. Well, I won't take it as an 11-month, but I think what people will sign is a 3 to 5 year agreement and say, okay, let's review and renew. So no longer is it that I'm going to get tied down to you. So I think the lessons one is learning from that over-dependency is that I want an exit clause.
Absolutely.
To that
You're
over-dependency. Right. So that's likely to happen much faster. So those forever deals, as we call it, I'm married to you, won't happen.
We are not going to have an EU deal that we will keep talking for 18 years and then sign. It's like, sign now or, move on or,
Correct.
And forget it, we are only signing for a year, right? What's the big deal? we'll reconsider next time. Because normally the thing was that, we're going to be locked in for life. So let's
Correct.
keep discussing and all that.
So I think the marriages have broken, the live-ins are happening.
Correct. But you have to tell the Supreme Court of India. They don't believe it. They don't think so.
I think, yeah, very well said. I think, but we are this whole 24-25. We are witnessing. If you look at end of before Cold War, it was bipolar world. End of Cold War almost became a hegemony, unipolar kind of world, and it's now truly going. And impetus has happened in 24-25. This impetus has happened for a multipolar world for sure. So and I think in the long run, this is good. This is fantastic. Right? I mean, especially countries like India and all. I mean, either you needed some kind of leadership to get a seat at the table and stuff like that. But now the seats are opening up. Everyone is talking to everyone. It was not like I need to be friends with the hegemon to actually get anywhere. So in that sense, I think this makes sense. And honestly, this whole mother of all deals also happened because of the changes that are happening in the world. It wasn't talked for ages, like Samiran mentioned.
Europe was as keen to sign. I mean, I'm sure they said, listen, we have to do something which will de-risk us.
And you're right, absolutely, because we're going to land up with this plurilateralism in that sense, because you are not going to, you have to work with like-minded people, and that's it. You will partner with people you feel secure with, rather than just the guys because they're cheap or because they're better. You will also want a certain security, because if you keep doing this cheap bit, but if there's no security and somebody just pulls the carpet from under you, that's not going to work. So I think security will become more important than just cost in that sense.
So I can give you some just complete aside, this thing that, while there is this optimism, so I recently discovered that, 5th of Feb, 2026 is the year when all nuclear agreements have lapsed.
You were telling me about this.
So there is no country is under any agreement to monitor, inspect, or anything. And there is this thing called the Doomsday Clock. So it's a metaphorical clock. In 1947 it was created, blah, blah, blah. So it has been never worse than it's today. It is 85 seconds to midnight on the Doomsday Clock. We were never as close to disaster as we are now. Because of this single factor. And because of the fact that now, because the flip side of this issue of everybody doing their own thing, so because there are no agreements, all nuclear agreements were meant for two countries, the Russia and America. But now there are 9 nuclear powers with warheads. And so, big mess. The Americans want the Chinese to sign. The Chinese are saying we will sign when we have as many warheads as the Americans. And then only we'll sign. So it's become a very complicated world, and it is an unsupervised world in that part, in the nuclear weapons arsenal. So it's a very frightening time, as it is very optimistic.
I'm now very worried all of a sudden. Because with the madness going around the world and this, how should I say, this power crazy world which we are living in.
Correct.
When you have complete lack of control on things like nuclear powers, that is a very, very scary world.
So the worry, I'll tell you, the worry is what? The worry is this, that on the one hand, if you have trade and trades going there, so if any one group feels that things are going too adverse, then they will resort to force to implement their will, as we have seen, in a lot of situations. So, and it is not under any contract. I mean, you're not going to be doing any wrong because no rules exist.
So we're back to the wild, wild west.
Wild, wild west, absolutely. It's the wild, wild west of nuclear warheads.
Wild, wild west, and to a certain extent, even in the trade terms. But yeah, nuclear warheads, this is like highly alarming.
I'm sure
at least
something will prevail, some sense will prevail. But the fact is that, people have consciously let it lapse. And now, everybody's saying, okay, now I just feel that people feel, okay, let me stockpile some more and then I will come to an agreement. and stop the other guy.
Okay, now I think my expression said it all. Can't imagine what the world is going to be with the kind. I think we need more women ruling the world. That's all I can say. This kind of madness fully will not exist if we have women ruling the world.
So, in fact, there is a word for this where men want women to take charge and do things. It's called weaponized incompetence. That you say that you can't do anything so that somebody else does the job.
But in this case, this will be. Never mind.
Weaponized incompetence has probably happened in Japan now.
Yeah, but I'm hoping that there will be more countries which will see more sense to bringing women to power.
Point, I have to say that even amongst world political leaders, which is at least my personal opinion, that women have been much more forthright and gutsy, taking a stand and giving their opinion. Even I think that lady from the EU, she was kind of saying that, why are XYZ telling us something? So I'm sure a greater share will definitely help. I mean, it's like Nilesh said, it is decades away, but...
On that happy note of let there be more women power so that we have some sanity which exists in the world, we will end this trade agreement with a complete agreement by both the men on the panel that women need to rule.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
Thank you for watching us, and we'll catch you soon on the next episode.
Yeah. Welcome to the band, but three techies on the mic, debugging the economy. What's the lie you like? They call it free trade, but here's the techie view. If the product is free, then the product is you. It's a high stakes handshake and API connection. Hard-coded politics, a global redirection. Data is the currency, source code is the soul. Sovereignty's the prize as we lose all control.
Disruption in the system, a new world order. Breaking all the ranks, crossing every border. No more forever deal, the marriage hit the rocks. Now we're living in the era of the 5-year exodus.
Rewind to the Roman 77 AD. Pliny lodged a complaint for the whole world to see 100 million sesterces flowing India's way. The first trade deficit recorded to this day.
Now India's moving forward with an open network heart. Adoring new products where the protocol start. Trading with everyone from the west to the east. Sovereign choices made, keeping lock-ins at the lead.
Check the supply chain, moving at a light speed pace. Ships dock at the port, triggers fire in the space. I and blockchain payments cleared in the blink, but the legal nightmare makes the whole system sink. One side wants tariffs, the other wants sanctions. Bipartisan static causing global distractions.
Risking the dollar, central banks buying gold. Shipping the reserves back home to have and to hold.
The doomsday clock is ticking, 85 to the end. Nuclear agreements lapse with no rules to defend. The wild, wild west is back from trade to the warhead. Stockpiling the arsenal till the world is seeing red.
Maybe we need women to take charge of the throne. To fix the incompetence that the men have clearly shown. Sign the deal now, or it's time to move on. By the time the beat drops, the whole world is gone.